Hi everyone. Good afternoon. So, in today's session, as Pragya have already discussed about, we'll be talking about a roadmap to get in as an in-house counsel, irrespective of any tag that you are having at present, irrespective of you are coming from a litigation background, irrespective of you guys are working as a fresher. So, this is just a roadmap to how anyone can get into as an in-house counsel. This is basically a reality check. Plus, we gonna explore and we gonna discuss the difference between theoretical knowledge and the practical knowledge and appropriate skill set. So today's session will be basically divided into two parts. After this particular thing, after this introduction, we gonna start and we gonna show you what actually makes a difference when you have practical exposure and hands-on experience. So like the first and the foremost question here which arises is I am not into any job that is related to in-house counsel, so how will I get practical exposure? So this is something which we're going to discuss and talk about all the important requisite skills that are required to be an in-house counsel and how we can prepare for it. So I think Pragya, let's just start and show them like the difference between what when someone is having a theoretical knowledge versus what you will achieve once you have practical exposure to it.
Thank you, Achal. So I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, it is.
Fine, perfect. So when you will be appearing for interviews as in-house legal counsel, you wouldn't be asked questions with regards to what a particular clause meant, or you wouldn't be asked questions with regards to what theoretical knowledge what you already know. You would be asked practical questions, and they would be checking whether you have actually reviewed and negotiated an agreement and whether you know ins and outs of a particular clause or not. So to gather better insights as to what exactly are the questions that would be asked when you will be preparing for interviews as in-house legal counsel, we have prepared an exercise for all of you today. So the exercise we are preparing is with regards to two parties that are planning to enter into the agreement, namely XYZ Inc. and ABC Inc. Now, ABC Inc. is the one who is taking services from XYZ Inc. and XYZ Inc. is providing services. Now, both the parties have decided to enter into an agreement. So, we'll be today taking two of the most important clauses in any agreement, that being payment terms and limitation of liability. Now, your role as in-house legal counsel of XYZ Inc. or service provider is to review payment term and limitation of liability, and you have to advise whether the clauses provided are acceptable from the point of view of service provider or XYZ Inc. or not. Now, let's move on to those clauses. Now, first clause is payment term. Now, payment term is subdivided into further two clauses, 3.1 and 3.2. Let's read those clauses. 3.1 states, subject to satisfactory performance of the services by service provider, ABC shall pay service provider fees as consideration in accordance with the terms and conditions of this agreement and in the manner detailed in this agreement for rendering the services. Service fee is inclusive of taxes, if any, levied under the applicable law except GST. GST, if any, shall be payable by ABC at such rate as prescribed under the applicable law, in addition to the service fee and subject to the fulfillment of the conditions prescribed in this agreement. Payment of service fee will be subject to withholding taxes at applicable rates. This is subclause 3.1. This is the first payment term subclause that has been provided, and we as in-house legal counsel of service provider, we have to review this clause. Next is states ABC shall be entitled to retain or withhold any part or whole of the service fee, including GST, if any, payable thereon, in the event the service provider breaches any of the material terms of this agreement or is not in compliance with the conditions stipulated above until the same has been complied with, or the requirements under the applicable law in relation to this agreement have been adhered to. Such retention or withholding by ABC shall not be deemed to constitute a breach of ABC obligations under this agreement, and the service provider agrees that it shall not seek any remedy, relief, or claim from ABC in relation thereto. Now, my question to all of you is that as an in-house legal counsel, according to you, can 3.1 or 3.2 be accepted as it is, or as an in-house legal counsel, would you propose any change to these subclauses? Let's start calling out name one by one so that we can get an insight that how much you have understood with regards to the practical aspect of contract vetting and negotiation. So, Divya, according to you, clause 3.1 and 3.2, are they acceptable from service provider's point of view or not? What do you feel?
I feel they are acceptable.
Both are acceptable. Okay,
Yes.
perfect. Ishita, Ishita, are we audible? All right. Karthik, Romil, Romil, can you unmute
Yeah.
yourself?
Yes. 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 Am I
Sure.
audible?
Yes, you are Romil. You're audible. So,
I,
according to you, clause 3.1 and 3.2, are they acceptable from service provider's point of view, or would you suggest any change in those clauses?
I believe section 3.2 needs to be reframed because it is saying that we can withhold all the service fee.
All
It
right.
should be done only till a part payment can be withheld by them until we comply with all the laws and regulations set forth by the service for the service provider.
All right.
3.1 can
Perfect.
be accepted.
All right. 3.1 can be accepted. For 3.2, Romil believes that we can only let client retain or withhold part of service fee, not entire service fee. Right?
Yes.
All right. Perfect. Rupal.
So I think both are acceptable.
All right. Perfect. Sanket.
Yes, sir. Both are acceptable.
All right. Shalini. Shalini, are you able to unmute yourself? All right. Shreya.
So I guess both are acceptable.
Okay. Surya.
Sir, I think both are acceptable.
All right. Perfect. Sudhanshu.
Yeah, actually, I think both are acceptable. But in 3.2, uh, if I was the legal counsel for that company, I would suggest that it must be only one point which contains whether it must be withhold or it must be a whole service fee included, including GST. Basically, in दोनों में से कोई एक I would suggest.
Okay. So what you are suggesting, either you can withhold service fee or you can withhold GST. You can't withhold all, right?
Exactly, yes, absolutely, yeah.
Okay. Perfect, Sudhanshu. Thank you for your insight. Sukriti, what do you feel? Can 3.1 and 3.2 be accepted? Sukriti, are you able to unmute yourself? All right. Surbi.
I think that that clause 3.2 should be changed because as from the point of view of the service provider, this is not acceptable. 3.1 is fine,
Okay.
but
So
3.2 I believe that.
what changes would you suggest in 3.2? What do you feel? Which language is not acceptable or the entire clause is not acceptable?
Like especially the second part, that such retention will not be deemed to constitute a breach of ABC's obligation, because I believe payment of service fee is a part of the obligation. So if they are retaining that, then it should constitute a breach.
Okay. So would you suggest deleting the second part or would you suggest amending and suggesting some changes to it?
Amending and deleting the second part.
All right. And what would you amend it with? What would you propose? Which language would you provide?
Um,
All right, not an issue. Tushar? Udit?
Sir, the withholding of the whole payment part in the clause 3.2, I think that's a problem. That will create a dispute. Or
Okay.
yeah, so I think I agree with Romil what he said. So
Okay. So according to you as well, we cannot client let retain or withhold the whole of the service fee. They can retain or withhold part of the service fee. Correct?
correct, correct.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Now we have heard all of your nuances and instances. What exactly do you feel is wrong with these clauses? Now let's come to 3.1 first. 3.1 states subject to satisfactory performance of the service by the service provider. Now tell me one thing. Can you any which ways define satisfactory word? What if tomorrow we as service provider have performed the services for an entire month? At the end of the month, client comes to us and says your services were not up to my satisfaction level, hence I will not be paying you. As a service provider, can this be accepted at all? This cannot be accepted and this can never be accepted. The word satisfactory in itself is very vague and undefined. The reason being because we have performed the services for an entire month. At the end of the month, if we do not receive the services, then at that particular point of time, the entire purpose of us as legal counsel to review the clauses would be defeated. We were not able to flag the risks from service providers' point of view. You all have missed this initial situation, and that makes the difference between theoretical and practical aspect. You were required to state that satisfactory word is not defined anywhere and hence it cannot be agreed upon. So here how you will review 3.1 and 3.2. Now coming to 3.1, first change we have suggested it, we have deleted the word satisfactory for the simple reasons being that satisfactory is undefined. As a service provider, payments are of utmost importance. Since payments are of utmost importance, if we do not receive payments on time, the whole purpose of us entering into this agreement would be defeated. So we will have to remove the word satisfactory. Now the clause reads as subject to performance of the service by service provider as per the scope of services defined under Annexure 1. Now why we have written as defined under Annexure 1? For the simple reason when client was entering into an agreement with us, they would have stated what exactly is the services they want, how they want that. That is already written under the agreement. If that is already written under the agreement, we have agreed to enter into this agreement and perform the services basis what client has already disclosed to us. So client can't go beyond that scope. That's why we have written as per the scope of services defined under Annexure 1. Next change we have suggested, the second part, it says service fee is inclusive of taxes if any levied under the applicable law. Now, when you are working practically, you would understand that the service fee is never inclusive of taxes. Taxes, if any, not just GST, all the taxes, excise, VAT, service tax, all the taxes, they are always exclusive of the service fee. They are never inclusive of the service fee. So that's why you were supposed to states that service fee is exclusive of taxes if any levied under the applicable law, not just GST. Those were the changes you were supposed to provide under 3.1. Now let's come to 3.2. Now Romil and couple of you stated that you cannot agree to retention or withholding right. Perfect. That's what you were required to say. Now where you lagged was that you can agree to partial retention or withholding. The moment you state that you can agree to partial retention or withholding, that particular moment you will be rejected. The reason being because you can never agree for retention or withholding right. Why? Because it is a claim made by other party. When there is a claim made by other party, it is still not your liability yet. They have to prove that claim. Once they prove that claim, then it becomes your liability. Till the time they haven't proved that claim, it is not your liability. Until the time it's not your liability, you can never agree to retention or withholding right. You have performed the services for an entire month. You want your payments after that month. You cannot agree for retention or withholding right. That's why the change we have suggested is that ABC shall be entitled to indemnification right. Now, why we have written indemnification right? Because indemnification is an entire process of proving the claim so that it becomes your liability. So that's why we have provided, if you feel you have suffered any kind of damage, prove it. Once you have proved it, then it depends upon us how we can pay you. We cannot let you retain or withhold whole of the service fee. That's why we have suggested ABC shall be entitled to indemnification right in the event service provider breaches any of the material terms of this agreement. The second change we have suggested, as suggested by one of you, that we cannot agree to second part. The whole sole reason being because we can never agree for retention or withholding right at the outset. That's why second part is also not agreeable and we have deleted the second part. Anyone has any question or any doubt with regards to 3.1 and 3.2, the changes we have suggested? Is the reasoning clear to you all? What underlines the difference between theoretical and practical aspect? This is how you do it practically. You have to underline each and every scenario to minimize your risk as much as possible. That's the whole sole job of being an in-house legal counsel. Not an issue. Let's take another important clause, that is limitation of liability. Now, all of you would have understood that limitation of liability is the most important clause in the agreement. Whenever you are appearing for an interview as in-house legal counsel, 100% every time you would be asked questions from limitation of liability. So you need to understood limitation of liability very well. Now let's read limitation of liability clause. It states, notwithstanding anything contained herein, aggregate liability of ABC for any losses or claims arising out of or in connection with this agreement, whether under contract, tort, or otherwise, including for negligence, shall not exceed the aggregate of payment received by the service provider under this agreement for the term of 12 months or preceding the date on which claim is raised on ABC. Now we have read limitation of liability. Now, from the point of view of service provider or XYZ INC, do you think this is agreeable? Devansh, let's start with you. Devansh, are you able to unmute yourself? No problem. Divya, let's start with you. What do you feel? Is limitation of liability clause agreeable from service provider's point of view?
Give me 2 minutes. I'm just reading.
Sure. Take your time. Guys, anyone who wants to start? All right. So Sukriti feels that this cannot be accepted. Now, Sukriti, if this cannot be accepted, what language would you propose? Because when you are working as in-house legal counsel, you simply can't just say that this is not acceptable. You have to provide your reasoning and you have to provide the alternative. What would you propose if this language cannot be accepted? Sukriti, if you are unable to unmute yourself, you can let us know. What alternative would you propose?
So Pragya, I think in limitation of liability, the
Right.
amount shall be fixed.
Okay. All
So
right.
this is
So
very vague.
it's very vague. So according to you, this 12 months should not be agreed upon. Instead of that, we should put in a fixed amount like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, 1 crore, whatever it is.
Yes.
It should have a fixed amount, right?
Yes.
Anything else apart from that? Yes, Surbi. Please go ahead.
In my opinion, we should not include negligence over here,
All right.
especially because
Okay.
that amount can exceed. That basically depends on what has happened. So that is another thing which we'll have to exclude.
Okay.
And also, a fixed amount should be given.
Okay. So Surbi, as per you as well as Divya stated, there should be a fixed amount, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Uh, Karthik, are you able to unmute yourself? All right. Mamta, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, I think it is agreeable.
Okay. According to Mamta, limitation of liability clause is agreeable. Romil, what do you feel? This can be accepted or not?
I believe this cannot be accepted because they are mentioning that they cannot exceed the aggregate pay of the payment received by the service provider. So it cannot be for 12 months. It should be like a certain or fixed amount mentioned.
Okay. So according to you as well, it should be fixed amount. Perfect. Rupal?
So I also agree with Ronald. I think fixed amount should be mentioned.
Okay. All right. Sanket?
Sir, amount should be fixed.
All right. Shalini? All right. Shreya? Shreya, what do you feel? Can we accept limitation of liability clause as it is, or should we propose any change? All right. Surya?
Sir, I also think that the limitation should be fixed. I don't like, I couldn't suggest any other changes right now. I'm just reading it.
Okay. All right. Perfect. Sudhanshu?
Yeah, I will suggest there must be as everyone suggested that there must be a fixed amount. So I would suggest that there must be a fixed amount, or there must be basically a comparison of amount. Basically, just like 1 lakh to 1,50,000 must be quoted
Okay.
in
All
spite
right.
in spite of 12 months and all.
All right. Perfect. Sukriti? Sukriti has already suggested. I have read this. Sukriti, I'll come to your answer. Surbi has also proposed. Tushar, what do you feel?
Can I add just one more thing?
Sure. Sure, Surbi. Please go ahead.
Also this 12, also this for a term of 12 months from, like, they have not specified from where.
All right. So if you read this language, it says 12 months preceding the date. So what this clause is suggesting is that suppose today, that is 24th of August, there is a claim. So from today, we are going to calculate the past 12 months. What was the billing value in the past 12 months from today? And then that would be the maximum liability capping. That's what this language is suggesting.
Uh,
Okay.
Pragya, am I audible?
Yes, Achal, you're audible.
Okay. So I have just a quick question from everyone. Like guys, first of all, we are representing legal counsels. We are acting as a legal counsel of service provider. So, service provider is ABC or XYZ?
XYZ.
Okay. So everybody agrees to it, right? It is XYZ. We have so many people in the session because see, understand one point. Uh, we really want the session to be like really interactive because it won't be possible for us to understand where you guys are lacking and what is the actual problem. So does everyone agrees like we are representing XYZ service providers legal counsel here?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we are paying like our 100% attention to all the clauses that we are reading, like I have assumed, and take 2 minutes more, read the clause again, like whole of the clause.
All right, so it would be better. I'll read it out loud for everyone again.
Yeah,
It says,
perfect.
notwithstanding anything contained herein, aggregate liability of ABC for any losses or claims arising out of or in connection with this agreement whether under contract, tort, or otherwise, including for negligence, shall not exceed the aggregate of payment received by service provider under this agreement for the term of 12 months preceding the date on which claim is raised on ABC. Now, guys, we have heard all your answers. Now, tell me, is this liability capping of ABC or is this our liability capping?
As a legal counsel, what you are expected to do is to pay attention to each and every minute detail that is there in a clause. So, like the sole reason why I asked was like, are you guys even aware about which party you guys are representing? And if yes, then read the clause again. Is this clause a mutual clause or is this clause a unilateral clause? Is this beneficial for you or is this against you? And this clause is not even considering you guys.
Right.
Now, yeah, so basically, why we are here, like the basic reason, basic motive in today's session is to make you guys understand the difference between the questions that are being asked. Nobody gonna ask you what do you understand and what is the definition of limitation of liability. But what is expected out of you guys is to what you redline in a limitation of liability clause. So that is something which you need to understand. Understand the difference between why we told like it's a reality check because you need to understand the difference between having a theoretical knowledge versus having a practical knowledge. This is what a practical knowledge is. So like my quick question to all, is this clause, this limitation of liability clause, is a mutual clause, or is this clause which is not even considering us, or is this clause which is considering us, and this is our limitation of like this is our liability capping? Every one of you just quickly jump to like the capping part, but can you just read the first line and quickly answer this?
Actually,
We
this
are
clause is not even
representing, yeah.
actually this clause is not even considering us. This is for ABC, and we are the service provider
So
XYZ.
that, so yeah, so that was like the first red flag in this particular clause. Yeah, Surbi, you can go ahead.
So basically, here we only see that ABC's liability is being capped. So we could still have unlimited liability because we are not included over here.
Exactly. Exactly, Surbi. The first point that you all need to highlight was whether this liability capping pertains to us or not. Sukriti, as you suggested, we have to make it mutual because the role of us as in-house legal counsel of service provider is to cap our liabilities. Our role is not to see whether ABC liability is capped or not and to what amount it is capped or not. Our role is not that. Our role is to cap our liabilities as a service provider while we are representing XYZ INC. So, as Sukriti stated, we have to make this mutual. Now, there are two ways we can make it mutual. Let's see this. First of all, what we can suggest is instead of ABC, we can write either party. Now the clause reads as notwithstanding anything contained herein, aggregate liability of either party for any losses or claims arising out of or in connection with this agreement, whether under contract, tort, or otherwise, including for negligence, shall not exceed the aggregate of payment received by service provider under this agreement for a term of 12 months preceding the date on which claim is made on the other party. That's the first way you can suggest the change. Second way you can suggest the change is you have stated that 12 months is a really high liability capping. We want a lower capping. If that's the scenario, you can suggest this. You can leave the first clause as it is. You can add another clause stating, notwithstanding anything to the contrary under this agreement, aggregate liability of service provider. Now here we are capping our liabilities. XYZ INC's liabilities being capped. Aggregate liability of service provider for all losses or claims arising out of this agreement, shall not exceed 1 month fee paid to service provider immediately preceding the date on which claim is raised against service provider. So herein we have kept ABC's liabilities to 12 months billing value. However, we have capped our liabilities to only 1 month billing value. We have reduced our liability capping drastically. These were the changes you were supposed to propose. At the outset, you were supposed to state that our liabilities are not capped at all. And as in-house legal counsel, we need to cap our liabilities. Those were the things that you all were required to suggest while you were during interviews. Had it been the situation wherein you would have stated that we have to state a fixed amount, that was a straightforward rejection. Because that clearly shows that you do not understand the practicality of limitation of liability, what exactly needs to be done there. Guys, this is how you are going to represent yourself during interviews, that and you will be focusing on the practical knowledge only, not just theoretical knowledge, because theoretical knowledge is not going to help you. This was the reality check with regards to the important clauses, how they are reviewed, but all things should be kept in mind while reviewing all those clauses. Now, we will quickly be moving to the second part of today's session, which will be taken up by Achal, who will guide you how you can prepare for those practical aspects so that you can actually land a job as an in-house legal counsel. Thank you all. Over to you, Achal.
I am audible, right?
Yes, Achal, you're audible.
I'll quickly share my screen. So like my first question here is now, like, do we have some kind of reality check? Like, why is this important? And what is the difference between having like the theoretical knowledge versus having practical knowledge? Like this is the difference, like the major difference, and this is like the game changer. We all know, like for a single position maybe we have thousands of applications for this particular position, but having practical knowledge, as I have already suggested, as I have already mentioned, nobody cares about if you have theoretical knowledge. The questions that are being asked, they won't ask you what is limitation of liability, what do you mean by limitation of liability, but what they will genuinely ask is, what do you redline in a limitation of liability clause? So like that is something like major difference between where people are actually lacking and what they should aim at. Now like there is like a question that is there for everyone, like that is coming from everyone to us, like the appropriate skill set that is required for an in-house counsel. Like what is the skill set, what all skills that are required? So being an in-house counsel like for more than 6 years now, and having like particular experience for in-house counsel thing, this is generally the skill set that is required. People have a preconceived notion like contract drafting is a must, like it is like the topmost required skill if you go and work as an in-house counsel, but that is not what it is. Contract drafting or drafting is something which is merely a 5% of the skill set that is required, because understand one point, you are not expected to draft any of like the contract from scratch. Nobody will tell you to draft a contract, draft an MSA, 20-pager MSA for each and every client. So all the companies are having appropriate template library from which they can pick up the standard drafts. Then coming to compliance and secretarial work, this is merely 5% of your job. That is like very rare, because for secretarial work we have CS in all the companies. For compliance we have people who are there for compliance work. Now what is actually required? The topmost two skills that are actually required, both of these skills are interlinked with each other. That is contract redlining and contract negotiation. Now both of these skills are interlinked with each other. Like for an instance, if Pragya have showed you about limitation of liability, what he have showed you is contract. He had redlined the contract. He have made changes to the contract. Like what are the changes that are required as per your company's policy, as per what will benefit you, your company. But simultaneously, why I was mentioning these, both of these are interlinked, is whenever you are making any red lines, any of the red lines, any of the changes in the contract, you have to make sure you are preparing for negotiation of it as well, because you have to justify it to your client, right? You cannot just make red lines to a contract and you don't know the reason behind it. So that is the reason why we say both of these skills are interlinked, and this is something which is like the top most required skills if you are going as an in-house counsel. Trust me, irrespective of your tag as a fresher, irrespective of you coming from a litigation background, irrespective of you coming from a post execution process, irrespective of you coming from an LPO background, we have participants, we have people who were total fresher with a 6 months experience landing a job with American Express. We have participant coming from a litigation background landing a job with an NBFC as an in-house counsel. So this is something which you have to hit on. Like these are the target areas, these are the skill set which are actually required. And this will definitely make a difference, like a huge difference. So as what we do is like, as just to give this practical exposure, because as I am mentioning it again and again, this is something uh, you are expected to have practical exposure rather than theoretical exposure. So like the question which here arises is like, if I am not doing any job as an in-house counsel, how can I even get a practical exposure? Like how can I learn redlining negotiations on a live contract, on an MSA? Right. So this is like the topmost question which is being asked. So that is something which we are working on. So we are basically conducting sessions, and where we are like taking limited number of people, where we are training them to give them practical exposure, like as Pragya have shown you and as you guys have seen. So as you guys have seen, like Pragya have shown you how practical skills will make difference. So I'll just quickly brief you guys about all the sessions that are there. Like basically it takes 2 months to have a correct appropriate path to have practical exposure and experience skill set. So like as like the I'll just go session by session. There are total 8 sessions that will cover end to end about CLM, end to end about you going for an interview, preparing for an interview, like end to end everything, end to end assistance. Like so the quickly I'll just brief you about the sessions. The first session is uh divided into 3 parts, where in the first part we have a quick introduction of all the participants that are there, so that we have an understanding where they are working, where they are coming from, and we can set a pitch about the course. The second part is something where we talk about everything about CLM, like everything about CLM. What is CLM? What are the benefits of CLM? What are the stages that are involved in contract lifecycle management? What is a pre-execution stage? What is a post-execution stage? Because I have seen like people are not even aware, because understand one point, CLM is something which is not even taught in the law schools, right? And that is for everyone. This is not present in any law curriculum, and that is like fair. Like it is not present, so everyone is a fresher in this particular field. But if you are having like a pre-exposure to contracts, if you are having a pre-understanding to CLM cycle, so you'll definitely make a difference. If I have to hire people for a fresher position. I'll take an example, and I have two people. Out of them, one is having a pre-exposure to contracts, one is having a pre-understanding to contracts about CLM and everything. So I'll definitely go with him, right? Because in the corporate industry and sector, nobody's interested to like spoon feed you. They'll definitely want someone who is having a pre experience in this particular field. So how can we attain it? So we'll definitely we talk about CLM, what are the stages, what is pre-execution, post-execution. Now coming to the base part, what are the important clauses that are there in a CLM in a contract? So we need to have an understanding. Like first of all, we prepare about the theoretical understanding so that whenever somebody talks about indemnification, you know its meaning. Secondly, will discuss about how it is to be implied. Then we discuss about the perspective from a service provider as well as from a recipient. So we understand, like everyone understand, there are two parties to a contract. And if you are going and working as an in-house counsel, so it's not always like you will be representing a service provider only, and tables will definitely turn around. If you are acting as a client, I'll give you a very short example. If we talk about payment term, okay, if you are acting as a service provider and you are his legal counsel, you definitely want the payment term to be minimum, right? You'll definitely want it to be 30 days, 15 days, whereas your client will definitely want the payment term to be 60 days, 90 days, maybe, right? So obviously, if you are representing service providers legal counsel, you'll aim for minimum payment term. But if you are representing clients legal counsel, like if you are taking some services, if your company is taking some of the services, you are representing clients legal counsel. At that time, if I don't understand the difference, if I don't understand the perspective from both the sides, I'll simply say, okay, I have just mugged up everything. So I'll simply say, okay, 30 days is fine. But I was in the shoes of client side. Like I was taking services, so I am acting as a client's legal counsel. Whereas what I have to say is I have to say like it should be 60 days instead of 30 days. So this is what I mean to say when I said we need to understand the perspective from both the sides. I had a participant, she went for an interview with a big four, and what she did was she marked up everything from a service provider's end, and question was as related to limitation of liability. Being a service provider, you'll always want your liabilities to be capped. So this is what she stated. But what they were asking was all the questions were from a client's perspective. So it is totally wrong. You face rejections out of it. So this point is like really important. Coming to the third phase in this particular session itself, we walk you through a full-fledged MSA. Now, why is it so? I'll quickly jump on the second and third session. Now, understand one point. Why I was saying practical knowledge is like really important, and how you can get practical exposure is you can you cannot learn driving by a like a driving manual, right? Till the point you are not learning it practically, you are not driving it practically by yourself, you won't learn it. The same is for the contracts. Like you won't learn till the point you are not redlining or vetting a contract by yourself on a live MSA. So in the first session, in the third phase, we'll walk you through a full-fledged MSA so that you understand, okay, this is how an MSA looks like. These are all the clauses. This is the legal language. This is something which we need to understand. So we just built a base out of you guys. In the second and third session, what we do is we take a full-fledged MSA. We divide it into two parts. Okay. First part, second part. We take first part in the second session. We take second part in the third session. We put more than 5 hours on a single MSA, covering each and every minute detail in an MSA from both the sides. You'll develop an understanding from both the sides. Okay, this is how redlining needs to be done. So you get an understanding from both the sides, plus simultaneously you will be preparing for contract negotiations. Okay, if this is the clause, I have made this requisite changes in this particular clause, I have made modifications to it, I need to justify it to the other party, to the counterparty, right? So we'll prepare for the negotiations from this point only. Now, after once this particular third session comes to an end, till the point you are just listening to us or you are just listening to anyone out there, you will think, okay, I understood everything. But the main learning point comes here. Once this particular session comes to an end, all the participants get a full-fledged MSA to Redline. Now, you will be given a full-fledged MSA, plus you get a week's time, and we assess each and every draft individually before the fourth session itself. In the fourth session, what we do is we discuss that particular draft which was given to all the participants, and we discuss it like what are the fallouts, what are the fallbacks which you guys have missed, what you guys have missed out. We discuss that particular draft, like whole full-fledged draft, so that you understand where you guys are lacking. Plus, we share the vetted version, the same of that particular same draft with all the participants, so that once you learn what are the fallouts, go back, sit back, relax, and compare with the vetted version, so that you guys have 100% understanding on each and every clause. And this is not just the end to the redlining part. You get 2 3 more drafts where you guys can redline, plus we share the vetted version. Come to us with your thousands of doubt. This is how you'll get the practical exposure. Nobody actually cares about your theoretical knowledge. This is how you will learn. Okay, this is how you adjust, this is how you modify, alter the language of each and every individual clauses. So once we are done with this, the second important skill that is there is about contract negotiation. So if we are negotiating, I have mentioned it now like so many times, we need to understand from both the perspective, from a service recipient, from a service provider, right? Service recipient is client. We need to have an understanding from both the sides, because there will be 50-50% chances. In 50% of the chances you will be representing a vendor, but in 50% of the chances you will be representing a client side. So everything changes. It will be totally vice versa situation for you guys to understand. So in fifth session, what we do is, in this whole session, the draft which we have showed in the second and third session, we take that draft and we represent both the parties. Like Pragya's represent service provider, I'll represent service recipient, and we negotiate. You will see how it is to be done practically, ethically, and professionally. How we give alternates to the client, how clients rebutes to each and every clause, what all do you speak when you go on a negotiation call. Because trust me, if you are going for an in-house counsel interview, they'll genuinely ask you if you have worked on contract redlining part. If you'll say yes, they'll ask you if you have gone to a negotiation calls. If you'll say yes, so they'll definitely ask you, so can you tell me your best experience of negotiation where you have negotiated. So this, at that particular point of time, if you don't have this particular exposure, you won't be able to quote or cite any example. So that is something in this session you will learn, you will understand the perspective of both the sides, from a service provider and from a recipient. Now comes like the major important part, like why we are focusing on practical exposure is, now in the previous session, session fifth, you have learned like how you negotiate. Now me and Pragya will be negotiating with all the participants on the same draft which you guys have vetted. Now, the reason behind is to give you guys an exposure, like end to end exposure. It is like the same draft which you guys have vetted, and now you are negotiating on it. So this will definitely like 100% will give you the practical exposure which is required once you go for any interview. Trust me, even if you want to go for a self-paced learning, this is something which you need to hit on, because I'll search on the internet, I'll get a lot of theoretical knowledge, but theoretical knowledge won't help. I have seen, Pragya have seen, we have all have faced, like there were so many participants who got so many rejections because of this particular thing. Like you don't have the practical exposure to it. And I have put up so many feedback like videos on a YouTube channel where we have shown you the difference, like where we have actually put up unfiltered feedbacks that we get from people. Like they, it actually makes a difference once you have it. So in this particular session, you will learn, you will understand, you will negotiate with us. So this will definitely give you a lot of confidence. Like, okay, so this is how negotiation takes place. Now, seventh session is something that is like an important session. We'll definitely discuss all the important pointers from the from session one itself, but session seven is totally devoted to interview preparation, where we will definitely we'll discuss about all the important questions, everything from scratch. Like hit on these questions, prepare for these questions, and according to like the past feedbacks that we are getting from our participants, it's been more than a year we have started this initiative to give practical exposure out to the law students, and like 99% of the questions are similar to what we are discussing in this session or throughout these sessions. Now I was talking about eight, there are total 8 sessions. So session number 8 is something which is a one-to-one session where we actually help for the CVs. We will give you, definitely give you inputs. And for the CV part is also like really important. Will help you to modify your CVs, will help you to make it as per in-house industry, so that we have a better clarity, we have a better view, and we get more interactions with the prospective companies. So that is something which you'll definitely get. And this is something where you'll definitely have like, now talking about some of the USPs that we are having, like where you will actually get to see. First of all the sessions are live sessions. We don't believe in recorded providing recorded session, because that's not our way. Like you won't be able to communicate, you won't be able to learn. So that is something which we don't entertain. Secondly, definitely, even if you are attending these sessions, if you are not attending these session, you get a recorded version of it. But we don't promote any of the participant to attend this particular record session, and we always promote to them to attend all the live sessions. Plus, second, practical exposure. We don't believe in giving theoretical knowledge. That is something which you can go search on the internet, you'll get thousands of the knowledge on the internet itself. Our main motive, our main focus is to give practical exposure. Second, third, we don't take more than 20 students. Even if we are making like, if it is full, we are making their registrations to the next month. We don't take more than 20 students. We don't want a lot of crowd, because at if we are taking hundreds of people, 50 of people, we won't be able to communicate with each and every of you guys, of all the participants. Plus, we assess each and every draft individually. So it takes a lot of time and effort. Secondly, one-to-one doubt connect. You can reach out to both of us anytime for any of your doubts. Now talking about interview preparation. So it's not about we only take session 7. If you are going for an interview with some X company, come to us with the JD anytime. If this particular sessions come to an end, so don't think you cannot reach out to us. Come to us even post after 6 months. I have so many participants who are all are connected, and it's like because of our efforts, because of their efforts, if they are placed with some good companies, so they definitely reach out to us if there are any referrals or if there are any vacancies in their organization. So we definitely share these particular openings in our like the official WhatsApp group that we make for that particular batches. So come to us with your JDs. Will help you to prepare. Will according to your JDs, according to your custom JDs. Like this is something which you need to understand and learn. And if you are having any doubts, any questions, just reach out to us. You can attend the sessions as much as you want, as many times as you want. There is no bar on it. If you have completed your particular sessions post 2 months, post 3 months, you again want to do it as a revision, you are always welcome. This is something which I feel this is like I haven't seen it till now. Now understand one point. I am taking these sessions. Pragya have come to me and Pragya have enrolled and Pragya learnt about contract redlining, negotiations and everything. Okay. I made him prepared about the interviews. Everything was done. He is now working with some ex company. There will be some situations in the beginning, like 2 3 months, there will be time and situation where there will be difficulty for you guys to understand, for you guys to cope up. If there are for example, if Pragya have joined here and he get some MSA to bet on, right? And like there is no one to help because like I have seen generally like there are 50% of the companies where people are actually helping you out, 50% don't care. You have to do everything on your own. Even though they are training you, they are just training you about their company's policy, but nobody will tell you, nobody will train you about what is track mode changes, how you redline it. Nobody will train you about it. So there will be high number of chances where in the beginning you will have so many doubts and you don't have anyone to take care of those doubts. But we both of us are there. We have few participants, not all participants, but few participants were facing difficulties in coping up because the difficulty level, or maybe there are something which they were not understanding. So after even onboarding with some ex company, they have reached out to us like this is something which I have got from my manager, so can you help in it? So we definitely help you. So this is something which is people don't understand its importance, but this is something which is important. I had a participant, she got into some ex company with a referral. She was not able to survive more than 2 months there. She had resigned because she was lacking these particular skills. Obviously nobody gonna teach you what is redlining, how you redline a contract. They will tell you, they will teach you about their company's policy. Like this is something which you need to take care of. But nobody will teach you about how you redline or negotiate, right? So she is now like placed really good at a good company, and we have helped her in the smooth onboarding process as well. So these are some of the USPs that we call, like that is something unique and that will definitely help you to like have particular like your dream position with any of the company. So I think Pragya, do you have anything to add on?
No, Achal, I believe you have covered everything well. So this was just a session to like explain everyone what exactly are the skills that are required for being an in-house legal counsel, how you can actually become an in-house legal counsel, and how much time does it take and what all does it take to become an in-house legal counsel. So yeah, Achal, we are good to go.
So if you have any questions, we have more 10 minutes. We can quickly discuss. And plus, one of the USPs, like today's session itself also, if we are keeping any session, first of all the sessions are only on weekends because we have majority of people working. Secondly, if we have kept your session at a particular time slot, it won't change throughout the sessions. Thirdly, if we have kept your session at 12 or at 10 in the morning, we start the session sharp because we have aligned so many batches, and we don't like in today's session itself we have started at 12 sharp. So this is something which we call it as our USP. Like we don't wait. We'll definitely send you an invite over your registered email. We'll definitely ping up a message in the WhatsApp group itself. The third thing, we cannot reach out to your home and tell you. So that is something which we don't promote. But we just start the session on time. Plus, end time is not fixed. If we have kept your session from 10 till 12, so we don't see the time clock like, okay, this is there, it is almost 12, so we need to end the session. No, it's not like that. The session quick, like 99% of the time runs till 1, because it totally depends on how interactive people are in the sessions and what is the pace. That is something, but we definitely start the session on time. So if you guys have any questions, we have another 5-10 minutes to take all the questions.
So guys, so if you have any questions, you can let us know. And registrations are open for September batch. So we have last slot left for September batch, and else we'll open the registration for October batch. So all those who are interested, you can reach out personally to either me or Achal, and we'll help you to register for the upcoming batches. So any question, any doubt from anyone?